Hey yo gamers, Nupka here. We are back with the new videos, and in this video we are talking about the two games is just coming up. One is about to release on 20th June and next the PC requirements has just come up right now. So the one is we talk about and the later PC requirements. So without wasting any time, let's jump back to the video. So the first video is just coming up for these EldenRing Shadow of Erdtree. So this is the DLCs of the main EldenRing is just releasing on this 20th June 2024, which is coming up from the Form Softwares, in which this is expansion features of all new stories set in the land of shadows imbued and with mysteries. Perilous dungeons and new enemies, weapons and equipments, discover enchanted territories, face formidable adversaries and revel in the satisfying triumph of victory. Dive into the riveting interplay of characters where drama, intrigue and intertwine that creates immersive experience to savor and enjoy. So there's also the PC requirements according to this, in which we'll just go to look back to it. So the minimum PC requirements is the Windows 10. The processor is i5 8th gen and Ryzen 3 3rd gen. So basically it's not a high demanding for the minimum requirements, while the memory requires a 20 GB of RAM, while the graphics needs 1060s, while it's an obvious graphics which is shown up in the Steam surveys, like most of the Steam PC players have the 1060 and AMD RX 580, which is 4 GB of graphics. So any 4 GB of graphics and 3, you can still run this on system, but quite a bit of low at the resolution. So I would recommend just go for the 8 GBs and minimum 6 GBs of requirements. So DirectX will be the 12 as usual, 80 GB of graphics, not the graphics, sorry, it's storage they need, and Windows compatible audio devices, while recommended part is Windows 11, i7 8th gen and Ryzen 5 3rd gen, which is almost 6 cores 12 threads or 8 cores 16 threads system CPU's basic requirements. So 16 GB RAM is minimum because you are going to play in a high resolutions. So Nvidia 1070, which is 8 GB of graphics cards, that's what I said, and our Radeon RX Vega 56, which is 8 GB of graphics as well, and Intel Arc A750, which is 8 GB of graphics as well. So almost the VRAM requirements is 8 GB, while if you have more than that, you can play and full HD or 4K resolutions on it. So these are the requirements of the PCs for these EldenRing, the Shadow of New Erdtree. So be pre-purchase or get ready for the new, the habit of gets dying in this EldenRing. So the upcoming DLC is gonna be way tougher than the EldenRing was. So a lot of challenges bringing up to this game. So stay tuned for that. The game is releasing on 20th June. I will cover it up. So moving to the next game is the Black Myth Wukong. The PC requirements has been released, and the PC requirements has divided into 6 segments, which is minimum, recommended, ultra, and there's another category of the full ray tracing requirements for the minimum, recommended, and ultra. So go through it. Is the minimum requirements for the medium 1080p is i5 8th gen processor and Ryzen 5 1st gen processor, while GPU requirements is GTX 1060, which is right now I have said it's 8 GB of graphics, and minimum every Steam players, the maximum number of players have 1060. So RX 580, which also has 6 to 8 GB of graphics cards, while VRAM requirements is 6 GB. So yes, 6 system RAM requirements is 16 gigs of memory, while storage it's 130 gigs of storage. So the recommended should be the SSD, while HDD is not forbidding it, because you're already buying a Black Myth Wukong, which is the latest segment of this release, while you are using the HDD version of your memory, so it's not recommended. So that would be preferred if you have a SSD as well, while Windows can have 10 and 11 at the same. The recommended, which is a 1080p high settings, is i7 9th gen, while Ryzen 5 5th gen, which is almost 6 core 12 threads or 8 core 16 threads or processors, while RTX 2060 and Radeon's RX 5700 XT, which is almost 8 to 12 GB of graphics card, or maybe the 16. So these 16 would be the next segment, while this would be the 8 GBU of graphics card, 6.2. So you need a 130 GB of SSD. The RAM's requirement is 16 gigs, and the Windows as usual is 10 and 11. So moving to the next ultra settings, which is the very high at 4K resolution, is Ryzen 5 5th gen and i7 9th gen from the Intel. That it can go for the 10th gen, 12, or latest is 12 and 13, and even 14 comes out, so you can go on that. While graphics, it's need that RTX 4070, not even 60. So if there is a recommended setting for 1080p is 2060, so you can run at a very high resolution at 3060 and 4060 as well. So the 4060 can run as well at 4K resolution, while you have to compromise with the graphics as well. So you can downgrade your graphics, but if you are already wanted to play at 4K, you already have that kind of a budget to buy a 4070 graphics card. So RX 7000 XT, which is also a 12 gig of VRAM's graphics. So system requirement of the RAMs is the 32 gigs of RAM, because it needs a lot of channeling through the buses of the memory to go process that all kinds of Unreal Engine 5 graphics fidelity. So storage needs a 130 gig of SSDs, which is recommended right now, and that's common throughout the gaming PC requirements. So operating systems is 10 and 11. It's okay. So now we are going up to the segment of the ray tracing. So if you are playing with this Black Myth Wukong with the ray tracing, so you have 3 categories as well. So if you are playing ray tracing, medium settings, 1080p, low settings, so you need to have i5 9th gen, while previously minimum setting was the i5 8th gen. So the Ryzen 5 1st gen, which is also the same as minimum requirement, while the graphics card will need to get improved to RTX 1060 to RTX 3060, while the AMD also has introduced the FSR3, but there is a problem with the drivers that it can get you banned, but still they got fixed, so you can also use the FSR3, but the updates has not been out yet. So it requires a VRAM of 8, which is RTX 3060 is 8 GB of VRAM for the minimum ray tracing. So 16 gigs of RAM it needs, system RAM, while 130 is obvious storage requirements for this game, and Windows is as usual 10 or 11. So recommended ray tracing 1080p medium settings is i7 9th gen, Ryzen 5 5th gen, and GTX RTX 4060. So 4060 comes to play here, while you can play on ultra settings as well, medium settings as well, very high settings in without having had the ray tracing on. So 8 gigs of VRAM its requires, which is RTX 4060 have. So if you wanted to play in FSRs, then you have to buy the 7000 series of graphics card, which can play the Black Myth Wukong in an FSR, while the Black Myth Wukong is highly integrated with the Nvidia's collaboration, so it's promoting only the the GeForce cards. So the RAM its requirements is 16 gigs of RAM, while storage it's 130 gigs of SSD, while operating system is Windows 10 and 11. And the last segment is the ultra 4K ray tracing very high settings is i7 9th gen and above is a great thumbs up, and great, it will run great if you have a high processors other than i7 9th gen above it, while Ryzen 5 5th gen is a requirement. So Ryzen 5 is almost a good processor which can handle a lot of tasks, while it has a robust threads and cores, which has a infinite cache or something, so they can work on that. While the graphics requirement is 4080, which is 16 gigs of VRAM in it, 4080 Super, and other 16 gigs of RAM, which is 7700 XT and 7800 XT and 7900 XTX. These are the AMD's requirement, while you can also play with the FSR, but it needs to get updates later on, because right now it's not any update for the FSR here. So the VRAM it's required, the graphics card requires to be 16 gigs of VRAM here, and system requirements of the RAM is the 32 gigs of RAM, while as storage it's in 130 SSD, and the operating system will be the Windows 10 and 11. So these are the PC requirements. I hope you find them more informative. that's it from my side. Till then, I'll meet you with the next videos. Keep gaming. Nupka Soup. Peace out here.
Yeah, boy.